The emergency chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with fear. Dozens of alien beings sat in their seats, their bodies shaking with worry. Some had multiple eyes that were wide with terror. Others had scales that changed color to show their panic. They all looked at the large screen in front of them, and none of them wanted to believe what they saw. Commander Velrin stood at the center of the room. His 3 fingers trembled as he pointed at the holographic display. Red dots covered the star map like a disease spreading across healthy skin. Each red dot was a Krelith warship, and there were hundreds of them. The Galactic Council had ruled this part of space for 10,000 years. They had built beautiful cities on peaceful planets. They created art and music that could make anyone cry with joy. Their scientists had cured diseases and extended life. Their philosophers had answered questions about the meaning of existence. But they had one weakness. They had forgotten how to fight. Their ships were designed to explore new worlds and carry cargo between planets. Their weapons were old and kept in museums. When conflicts arose between member species, they talked for weeks or months until everyone agreed on a solution. War was something they read about in history books, not something they actually did. Then the Krelith came. The Krelith were everything the Council was not. They were born on a world where only the strong survived. Their planet had terrible storms that could flatten cities. Their oceans had creatures with teeth as long as a person's arm. Even their plants could kill with poison. The Krelith had climbed to the top of their world's food chain by being more vicious than anything else. When they discovered space travel, they did not explore. They conquered. They took what they wanted and destroyed what they did not need. Planet after planet fell to their fleets. Entire civilizations were wiped out in days. Velrin's voice cracked as he spoke. The translation devices allowed everyone to understand him, but they could not hide his fear. Honored members of the Council, the Krelith have broken through our defense line at Hexus Prime. Our military forces have lost 70% of their ships. 2 million civilians are dead. The Krelith fleet will reach our core worlds in 40 days. The chamber erupted into chaos. Representatives from 11 different species began shouting at once. Some demanded evacuation. Others suggested surrender. A few simply sat in silence, already accepting their doom. Counselor Thena was the oldest member of the Council. Her silver scales had lost their shine over the many years of her life. She had seen empires rise and fall. She had witnessed miracles and tragedies. But she had never seen her people face extinction before. She raised one thin arm, and slowly the chamber fell silent. "What options do we have?" she asked quietly. Velrin looked down at his feet. "None that will save us, Counselor. We can evacuate some of the population, but not enough. We can send our remaining ships to fight, but they will be destroyed. The Krelith are too strong, and we are too weak." An old representative from the Hexian species started to weep. His people lived on the planet that was currently under attack. His family was down there, hiding in shelters while bombs fell from the sky. Then a young voice spoke from the back of the room. There might be one chance. Everyone turned to look at junior analyst Kessa. She was a Lumari, a species known for their excellent memory and attention to detail. She looked nervous standing before all these important leaders, but she stood straight and spoke clearly. 600 years ago, a survey team visited a planet in the Outer Rim. It was classified as a Class 12 death world. That is the highest danger rating we have. The team found it almost impossible to survive there for even a few days. "Why are you telling us about some dangerous planet?" Another counselor interrupted impatiently. Kessa brought up a new image on the main screen. It showed a blue and green planet with white clouds. It looked beautiful from space, but the data beside it told a different story. Extreme gravity that would crush most council species. Weather patterns that created storms spanning entire continents. Predators at every level of the ecosystem. Diseases in the air and water that could kill within hours. Because this death world has intelligent life, Kessa continued. They call themselves humans. They call their planet Earth, and they are the most dangerous species our survey team ever encountered. The chamber went silent. Everyone stared at the image of Earth. Kessa continued reading from the old report. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. They would chase prey animals for days until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. They have incredible endurance. They can survive injuries that would kill any of us. They can go without food for weeks. Their bodies can adapt to almost any environment. But that is not the worst part, Kessa said, her voice dropping lower. The worst part is that they fight each other constantly. The survey team recorded thousands of wars throughout human history. They have weapons that can destroy their entire planet several times over. They have killed billions of their own kind in conflicts over land, resources, and ideas. A counselor with 4 arms stood up angrily. And you want us to contact these monsters? They sound worse than the Kralith. Perhaps, Kessa admitted. But the survey team noted one other thing about humans. When they heard someone crying for help, they would come running. Even if it meant danger to themselves. Even if the person crying for help was a stranger. The team observed humans running into burning buildings to save people they did not know. They saw human soldiers throw themselves on explosives to protect their friends. They recorded countless examples of humans sacrificing themselves for others. Counselor Thena leaned forward in her seat. Her old eyes studied the image of Earth carefully. You believe they would help us? I believe they might, Kessa said. If we ask. The debate lasted for hours. Some argued it was too dangerous to contact such a violent species. Others said the humans might side with the Kralith. A few thought the humans would simply ignore the message. But in the end, fear of extinction won. The council voted to send the message. It took a full day to compose the distress signal. They made it simple because they did not know if humans would understand complex languages. They included images of the Kralith attacks. They showed the burning cities and the fleeing refugees. They added coordinates to their location. And then at the end, they added 2 words that every species in the galaxy understood. Help us. The message was sent toward the Sol system where Earth orbited its yellow star. It would take time to reach them. Then more time for the humans to translate it. Then even more time for them to travel to council space if they decided to come. Most council members did not expect a response. They certainly did not expect what happened 3 weeks later. Captain Jake Morrison was tall with short brown hair and green eyes. A scar ran down his left cheek from an accident years ago during training. He stood on the bridge of the Terran colonial ship Valkyrie, watching his crew work at their stations. Everything was quiet and routine, just another patrol mission in deep space. Then Lieutenant Commander Amy Scott called out from her station. She had blonde hair tied back and sharp blue eyes that never missed details. Captain, we have an urgent message from Fleet Command. Jake nodded. Put it through. Admiral Carlos Herrera appeared on the main screen. The admiral was an older man with gray hair and dark eyes that had seen many battles. He looked tired, but his voice was strong and clear. Morrison, how fast can you get the Valkyrie ready for deployment? Jake stood straighter. When the admiral asked that question, something important was happening. We are already on patrol, sir. We can leave in 20 minutes. What is the situation? 2 days ago, we received a signal from space. Our language experts spent a full day translating it. The message is a distress call from an alien civilization. They say they are being destroyed by another alien species. They are asking for help. The entire bridge went silent. Every crew member stopped what they were doing and stared at the screen. Aliens. Real aliens. Humanity had been searching the stars for 100 years, wondering if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. And the first message was not a greeting but a scream for help. Herrera continued speaking. The location is 3 weeks away if we push our engines to maximum speed. I am putting together a task force of 15 ships. You will be in command, Morrison. Jake felt his stomach tighten. 15 ships sounded impressive, but humanity had only been traveling between stars for 30 years. Their ships were tough and well-armed because humans knew how to build weapons, but they had never fought aliens before. Nobody knew what to expect. What do we know about the enemy? Jake asked. Not much, Herrera admitted. The aliens calling for help call them the Kralith. From what we can see in the images they sent, the Kralith are aggressive and violent. They seem to have a lot of ships. Many more than the people asking for help. And who is asking for help? They call themselves the Galactic Council. It appears to be a group of multiple alien civilizations working together. The details are unclear, but one thing is obvious. They are losing badly. Jake looked at his first officer, Commander Ben Hayes. Ben was shorter than Jake, with red hair and a calm face that never showed panic. Ben gave a small nod. He was ready. We will be ready, Admiral, Jake said. Herrera leaned closer to the camera. Morrison, I need to be very clear about something. We do not know what we are flying into. This could be a trap. It could be some kind of misunderstanding. Or it could be exactly what it looks like, which is genocide. You have authority to make decisions out there. But remember something. You represent all of humanity. Whatever you do it for Earth and everyone on it. I understand, sir. The transmission ended. Jake turned to his crew. They all looked excited and scared at the same time. He knew exactly how they felt. You heard the Admiral? Jake said in a loud, clear voice. All hands to battle stations. Plot a course to these coordinates, and someone wake up the Marines. They might finally get to do their jobs. The Valkyrie shook as her engines powered up to full strength. Around her in space, 14 other ships began moving into formation. The TCS Hammer, the TCS Shield, the TCS Raptor, and 11 others. Each ship was filled with human crew members who had volunteered for this mission. They knew they might be flying to their deaths, but they went anyway, because that was what humans did. They heard someone crying for help and they came running. 3 weeks passed. The journey was long and tense. The crew drilled constantly, practicing combat maneuvers and damage control. The Marines cleaned their weapons and checked their armor. The medical teams prepared the sick bay for casualties. Everyone knew that when they arrived, they would probably have to fight. Jake spent his nights in his quarters, reading everything the Council had sent in their distress call. He studied the images of burning cities. He looked at the tactical data about Kralith ship movements. He tried to understand what kind of enemy they were about to face. Finally, the day came. The Valkyrie and her sister ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Hexus system. What they found was worse than anyone had imagined. "Oh my God," Amy whispered from her station. The main screen showed a battlefield. Hundreds of ships floated dead in space, many of them broken into pieces. Bodies drifted in the void, frozen by the cold of space. Debris fields stretched for thousands of kilometers. And everywhere, there were red markers on the tactical display. Enemy ships. More than anyone had counted. More than anyone had feared. How many? Jake asked, his voice tight. Ben checked his instruments, then double-checked them because he could not believe the numbers. Approximately 800 Kralith vessels, sir. They have completely surrounded the fourth planet in this system. Sensors show large cities on that planet, but the life signs are dropping fast. The Kralith are bombing the surface. Jake felt anger rise in his chest. 800 ships against 15. The odds were terrible. Any sane commander would retreat and call for reinforcements. But Jake looked at that planet on his screen and thought about the billions of people down there who were dying while he watched. Can we contact the planet? Jake asked. Yes, sir, Amy replied. Audio only. Translation software is working. Open a channel. A voice came through the speakers. It was thin and weak, barely more than a whisper. The translation software made it sound mechanical, but the fear came through clearly. Unknown vessels, this is Counselor Thena of the Galactic Council. If you can understand this message, please, you must run away. The Kralith will destroy you. Save yourselves. Do not let our extinction become yours as well. Jake took a deep breath. He thought about Earth, about his family back home, about the crew members who trusted him. Then he thought about those people on the planet below, waiting to die. Open a channel to the planet. All frequencies. Channel open, Captain. Jake spoke clearly and calmly. Counselor Thena, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Terran colonial ship Valkyrie. We received your distress call. Humanity has come to answer it. We came to help. He paused, then smiled grimly. And we did not come here to run away. On the planet below, in a deep underground bunker, Counselor Thena heard those words. For the first time in weeks, she felt something other than fear. She felt hope. They came, she whispered. The humans actually came. Commander Velron was already pulling up data on the new arrivals. Their ships are small compared to the Kralith fleet. But look at their power signatures. These are not exploration vessels. These are warships. The human task force began moving forward, accelerating toward the Kralith fleet. 15 ships against 800. It should have been suicide. It should have been a slaughter. But the Kralith were about to learn something important. They were about to discover what happened when you threatened people under the protection of a species from a death world. They were about to find out why you should never, ever underestimate humans. The battle was about to begin. The human fleet split into 3 groups as they approached the Kralith armada. Jake watched his tactical display carefully. The Kralith ships were larger than human vessels, and there were so many of them that they filled the screen with red markers. But Jake had spent his entire military career studying war, and he knew that numbers were not everything. All ships, listen carefully. Jake spoke into the communication system. Execute attack pattern Delta. Group 1, you take the ships that are bombing the planet. Group 2, Keep the main fleet busy. Group 3, follow the Valkyrie. We are going straight through the center. The responses came back quickly. Every captain confirmed they understood. Then the human ships opened fire, and the Kralith learned their first lesson about humans. They learned that humans had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing each other, and they were very, very good at it. The TCS Hammer led Group 1 toward the Kralith bombardment fleet. Commander Lisa Grant was in charge of the Hammer, and she was known throughout the human fleet for her aggressive tactics. Her ship was built for close combat with heavy armor and powerful short-range weapons. All power to forward shields, Lisa ordered her crew. We are going to hit them hard. The Hammer accelerated to ramming speed. The Kralith ships fired their plasma weapons, but the Hammer's shields held. Then the Hammer fired back with her railguns. These were not energy weapons like the Kralith used. They were simple and brutal. Magnetic accelerators hurled chunks of metal at incredible speeds. When the first railgun slug hit a Kralith ship, the enemy vessel simply exploded. The kinetic energy was so powerful that it tore through the hull like paper. 3 more Kralith ships died in the next 10 seconds. The bombardment fleet, which had been raining death on the planet below, suddenly found itself under attack. Group 2, led by Captain Greg Palmer in the TCS Shield, engaged the main Kralith fleet. The Shield and her companion ships moved fast, using hit-and-run tactics. They would fire their missiles, then dodge away before the Kralith could respond effectively. It was like watching sharks hunting a school of fish. Meanwhile, Jake led Group 3 straight into the thickest concentration of enemy ships. The Valkyrie's armor was thick and strong. Human engineers had designed her to survive in the worst conditions possible. Because humans came from a planet that tried to kill them every day, they built their ships to take punishment and keep fighting. Enemy ships are focusing fire on us, Lieutenant Danny Cruz reported from the tactical station. He was young but good at his job. Plasma torpedoes incoming. Point defense systems activate, Jake ordered calmly. The Valkyrie's hull was covered with small automated guns. These cannons tracked the incoming torpedoes and shot them down before they could hit the ship. Most of the enemy fire was destroyed in space. A few torpedoes got through and hit the Valkyrie's armor, but the thick metal plating held firm. Their weapons are designed for ships with light armor, Ben observed. They have never fought anyone who builds ships like us. Then let us show them what Earth engineering looks like, Jake said. All weapons fire. The Valkyrie unleashed everything she had. Railguns hammered enemy ships with solid projectiles. Missile tubes launched nuclear-tipped torpedoes. Laser batteries carved through enemy hulls. The Kralith had never faced this kind of firepower before. Their shields, designed to stop energy weapons, were useless against physical projectiles traveling at relativistic speeds. Kralith ships began dying by the dozens. But there were still hundreds of them, and they were starting to adapt to human tactics. The Kralith commanders began ordering their ships to spread out, to surround the human vessels and attack from all sides. In the underground bunker on Hexus Prime, Commander Velron watched the battle with amazement. The humans were outnumbered 50-1, but they were winning. How was this possible? Look at how they move, Velron said to Counselor Thena. Every ship knows exactly where the others are. They support each other. When one ship is in danger, the others move to help. This is not just fighting. This is coordination that takes years of practice. Kessa, the young analyst who had suggested calling the humans, was studying her tactical display. They are also using their ships differently than we do. Our ships try to avoid damage. Human ships seem designed to take damage. Look at the Valkyrie. She has been hit dozens of times, but she is still fighting at full strength. It was true. The Valkyrie's shields had failed 10 minutes into the battle. Her hull was scorched and dented from plasma impacts, but her weapons kept firing, her engines kept pushing, and her crew kept fighting. Then the Kralith made a mistake. They saw that the TCS shield was surrounded and taking heavy damage. Captain Palmer's ship had fought bravely, but now her shields were gone and her hull was breaching in multiple places. The Kralith thought they had an easy kill. They were wrong. All ships, Jake's voice rang out across the battle, converge on the shield's position. We do not leave anyone behind. It was a tactical risk. By abandoning their carefully planned attack patterns to rescue one ship, the human fleet exposed itself to counterattack. Any military academy would call it a mistake. But Jake did not care about textbook tactics. He cared about his people. The Valkyrie arrived first, her railgun screaming as she tore through the Kralith ships surrounding the shield. The TCS Raptor came next, her laser arrays creating a deadly web of fire. One by one, the human ships rallied to save their comrade. "This is Palmer," came a smoke-choked voice over the communication channel. "Thanks for the assist, Morrison. We are still breathing over here." "Keep it that way, Greg," Jake replied. "We have a battle to win." But then something changed. The Kralith fleet, which had been fighting aggressively, suddenly pulled back. They did not retreat, but they stopped pressing the attack. It was as if they were reassessing the situation. "They are learning," Ben said quietly. "They did not expect us to fight like this. Now they are taking us seriously." Danny's voice cut through the bridge. "Captain, I am reading a massive power spike from deep in the Kralith formation. A very large ship is moving forward." The tactical display updated, and everyone on the bridge saw it. A Kralith vessel 3 times the size of the Valkyrie was pushing through the enemy fleet. Its hull was covered in scars from old battles. Its weapon ports glowed with building energy. This was not just another warship. This was a flagship. "The commander's ship. That is their leader," Jake said. "He wants to see what we are made of." Amy's hands moved across her console. "Captain, we are receiving a transmission from that ship." "Let me hear it." The voice that came through the speakers was deep and harsh. It reminded Jake of rocks grinding together. The translation software struggled to keep up, but the meaning was clear enough. "Unknown species, you fight well for prey animals, but you are few and we are many. Withdraw now and we will give you a quick death. Continue fighting and we will make your suffering last forever." Jake looked around his bridge. He saw determination on every face. His crew had traveled 3 weeks to get here. They had fought against impossible odds. They had lost friends and shipmates, and they had done it all for people they had never met. "Open a channel," Jake ordered. "All frequencies. I want everyone to hear this." "Channel open, sir." Jake leaned forward and spoke directly to the Kralith commander. His voice was calm and cold. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of humanity. You have made 2 mistakes. First, you assumed we were prey. We are not. We are the species that climbed to the top of the food chain on a death world. We turned every predator on our planet into farm animals or endangered species. Second, you threatened us. You threatened the people we came here to protect. We have a saying on Earth. We call it making an enemy, and humans are very, very good at being enemies." He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. "All weapons target that flagship. Let us show them what Deathworlders can do when you make them angry." The Valkyrie turned toward the Kralith flagship and accelerated to attack speed. Behind her, the rest of the human fleet followed. They were battered and damaged. They were outnumbered and far from home, but they were not done fighting. Not even close. War Master Drexath sat on his command throne aboard the Kralith flagship. He had led his species to victory in 17 star systems over 30 years of conquest. He had destroyed cities, broken armies, and made entire civilizations kneel before him. He had never known defeat, but now, watching these humans charge directly at his flagship, he felt something he had not experienced in many years. Uncertainty. His tactical officer, a younger Kralith warrior named Vexus, turned to him with confusion in his eyes. "War Master, the human flagship is approaching at attack speed. They are not even trying to dodge. They are coming straight at us." "They are challenging me," Drexath said slowly. His mandibles clicked together in what might have been respect or amusement. "They want a direct fight. Very well. All weapons target their lead ship. Show these humans the price of arrogance." The Kralith flagship's massive plasma cannons came to life. These weapons had reduced cities to molten slag and torn apart battleships with ease. Now they focused all their power on a single target, the Valkyrie. Space lit up with deadly energy as dozens of plasma bolts streaked toward the human ship. On the Valkyrie's bridge, alarms screamed. "Brace for impact," Ben shouted. The first wave hit the Valkyrie's shields with tremendous force. The entire ship shook like a leaf in a storm. Power readings across every system spiked dangerously. The shields held for 3 seconds, then 5, then 10. Then they failed completely. "Shields are down," Danny reported, his voice tight. "Hull breaches on decks 7 and 9. Damage control teams are responding." Without shields, the Valkyrie was vulnerable. The next wave of plasma bolts struck the hull directly. Armor plating, designed to withstand incredible punishment, began to vaporize under the extreme heat. Sections of the ship glowed red like heated metal in a forge. "Keep us on target," Jake ordered. His hands gripped the armrests of his chair so hard his knuckles turned white. "Amy, do we have a firing solution yet?" 15 seconds to optimal range, Amy replied. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly as she worked her console. 10 seconds, 5, we have a solution. Fire everything, Jake commanded. The Valkyrie unleashed the full fury of human weapons technology. Every railgun on her bow fired at once, sending a swarm of tungsten projectiles screaming through space at impossible speeds. At the same time, her missile tubes opened and launched a spread of nuclear-tipped torpedoes. The railgun slugs arrived first. They punched through the Kralith flagship's shields as if they were not even there. Each impact released kinetic energy equivalent to a meteor strike, and dozens hit within seconds of each other. The flagship's armor, built to withstand energy weapons, crumpled under the assault. Then the nuclear torpedoes arrived. Space became as bright as a star for 3 full seconds as multiple nuclear warheads detonated against the Kralith flagship's hull. The electromagnetic pulse was so powerful that it temporarily blinded sensors across the entire battle. In the bunker on Hexus Prime, Counselor Thena watched the screen with wide eyes. "They brought stellar fire to battle," she whispered. "They weaponized the power of suns." Kessa nodded slowly. "They evolved on a planet that tried to kill them every day. Then they spent thousands of years fighting each other. This is what they learned. This is what they became." When the light faded, the Kralith flagship was still there, but it was badly damaged. Its bow section was cratered and venting atmosphere. Fires burned across multiple decks, but it was still alive, still dangerous, and very, very angry. Drexath pulled himself up from where the explosion had thrown him. Around him, his bridge crew worked frantically to restore damaged systems. He looked at his tactical display and saw that the human ship that had attacked him was also heavily damaged. "Return fire," Drexath ordered. "All ships converge on that human vessel. Destroy it." But while the Kralith had focused on the Valkyrie, the other human ships had not been idle. They had used the distraction to move into better positions. Now they struck from multiple angles with coordinated precision. The TCS Hammer and her heavy guns methodically dismantled Kralith cruisers. The TCS Raptor and her sister ships wove through the enemy formation like predators, targeting engines and weapon systems. The TCS Shield, damaged but unbowed, provided long-range missile support from a safer position. "They are working together," Vexus observed with growing alarm. "Every human ship knows what the others are doing. When one is threatened, the others move to protect it." Drexath watched the battle unfold and slowly began to understand. These humans were not just warriors. They were a pack. And pack hunters were far more dangerous than any single predator. "Warmaster," another officer called out. "The fleet is reporting heavy casualties. We have lost over 100 ships. Morale is beginning to falter." For the first time in 30 years of conquest, Drexath gave an order he had never given before. "All ships fall back. Reform defensive positions around the flagship." The Kralith fleet began to pull away from the human ships. Not retreating, not yet, but clearly reassessing. They had expected easy prey, like all the other species they had conquered. Instead, they had found predators who fought back with weapons and tactics they had never seen before. On the Valkyrie, Jake was receiving damage reports. They were not good. 30 crew members dead, over 100 wounded. Multiple hull breaches, shields offline, 2 of their main weapon batteries destroyed. The ship was still functional, but barely. "Can we still fight?" Jake asked quietly. Ben checked his console, then nodded. "We can fight. We look terrible, but we are operational." Before Jake could respond, Amy called out urgently, "Captain, we are detecting new contacts at the edge of the system. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel." Jake felt his heart sink. If the Kralith had reinforcements arriving, the battle was lost. But then the tactical display updated with identification codes, and Jake felt relief wash over him. "They are human ships," Amy said, and her voice trembled with emotion. "It is the reinforcement fleet. Admiral Herrera is here." Aboard the TCS Endeavour, Admiral Carlos Herrera stood on his bridge and surveyed the battlefield. He had brought 43 additional ships, everything Earth could spare. When he saw the damage to the first task force, his jaw tightened with anger. "Communications, send to Captain Morrison. Tell him the cavalry has arrived. Then send to all ships in the fleet. Full attack speed. We are ending this fight today." The combined human fleet, now numbering over 50 ships, began its advance. The Kralith watched them come, and for the first time in their history of conquest, they felt fear. Drexath stared at his tactical display. The humans had sent reinforcements. Not just a few ships, but dozens. How many ships did these humans have? How far were they willing to go to protect strangers? His second-in-command, an experienced warrior named Kreth, spoke quietly. War Master, we still outnumber them. But our warriors are shaken. They have never faced an enemy like this. If we continue fighting, we may win, but the cost will be severe. Drexath knew Kreth was right. Yes, they could probably win through sheer numbers, but they would lose hundreds more ships, thousands more warriors. And for what? One planet? There were easier conquests elsewhere. Open a channel to the human fleet, Drexath ordered. Jake was surprised when the communication request came through. This is Morrison. What do you want? Drexath's voice was still harsh, but the contempt was gone. Now there was something like respect. You have proven yourselves worthy opponents, humans. We will withdraw from this system. But know this, we will remember you. And we will return. If you return, Jake replied coldly, we will be waiting. And next time, we will bring more ships. The Krelith fleet began powering up their faster-than-light drives. Within minutes, they started jumping away, leaving the system behind. The battle was over. On Hexus Prime, in cities that had been under bombardment for 3 days, people emerged from their shelters. They looked up at the sky where human ships now stood guard. And they cheered. The celebration across the Galactic Council worlds lasted for 3 days. In every city, in every colony, on every station, people who had thought they were going to die now danced and sang and wept with joy. The humans had come. The Deathworlders had saved them. But for Jake Morrison and his crew, there was no celebration yet. The Valkyrie limped into orbit around Hexus Prime with a dozen other damaged human ships. The medical bays were full of wounded. The repair crews worked around the clock, fixing hull breaches and restoring critical systems. And in the morgue, 30 bodies lay in cold storage, waiting to be taken home to Earth. Jake sat in his quarters, staring at the list of names. Lieutenant Sarah Kim, age 24. Ensign Peter Brooks, age 22. Chief Engineer Marcus Cole, age 37. Each name was a person he had known, had served with, had led into battle. And now they were gone. A knock on his door pulled him from his thoughts. Come in. Ben entered, looking as tired as Jake felt. The council has requested a meeting, sir. They want to thank us in person. They are sending shuttles to bring our senior officers down to the planet. Jake nodded slowly. How are the repairs going? Better than expected. The council is sending their engineering teams to help. They say it is the least they can do. They are also offering medical assistance for our wounded. Good. Jake stood up and straightened his uniform. It was clean, but he felt dirty. That was what battle did. It left marks you could not see. Let us go meet the people we saved. The shuttle ride to the surface was quiet. Jake, Ben, Amy, and the other ship captains said little. They were all thinking about the crew members they had lost, the friends who would not be coming home. The shuttle landed at what remained of the capital city's spaceport. Much of the city was damaged from the Krelith bombardment, but the people had already started rebuilding. As Jake stepped off the shuttle, he was surprised to see thousands of aliens gathered to greet them. They came in all shapes and sizes. Some walked on 2 legs like humans. Others had 4 or 6 legs. Some had fur, others had scales, and a few seemed to be made of something that shimmered like water. But they all had one thing in common. They were alive because humans had fought for them. The crowd parted and Counselor Thena walked forward. She was old and moved slowly, but her eyes were bright and alert. Beside her walked Commander Velrin and Junior Analyst Kessa. Thena stopped in front of Jake and bowed deeply. It was a sign of great respect in her culture. Captain Morrison, on behalf of the Galactic Council and all our member species, I thank you. You came when we called. You fought for us when you had no reason to. You lost your people protecting ours. Jake felt uncomfortable with the praise. We did what anyone should do, Counselor. We heard someone calling for help and we answered. But that is exactly the point, Thena replied gently. For 10,000 years, species in this galaxy have fought for territory, for resources, for power. But never has a species gone to war purely to help strangers. You have shown us something we had forgotten. That strength can be used to protect, not just to conquer. She gestured toward a large building that had survived the bombardment. Please come inside. We have much to discuss. The meeting hall was impressive even in its damaged state. It had high ceilings and walls covered with art from dozens of different civilizations. Council members from all the member species were gathered there, along with Admiral Herrera, who had arrived on an earlier shuttle. Thina stood at the center of the room and spoke in a voice that carried to every corner. The Galactic Council has made a decision. We formally invite humanity to join our confederation, not as junior members, not as servants, but as equals, more than equals. As protectors. There was murmuring throughout the hall. Some of it sounded like approval, but Jake heard uncertainty too. These people had just been saved by humans, but they were also probably afraid of them. After all, the council had read the old survey reports. They knew humans were dangerous. Admiral Herrera stepped forward. Counselor Thina, humanity accepts your invitation, but I need you to understand something about us. We did not come here because we are warriors. We came because we believe that strength means nothing if it is not used to protect those who cannot protect themselves. We will fight for the council, but only for defense, never for conquest. That is exactly why we want you, Thina said, and she smiled. Because you understand that the best weapon is one that never needs to be used, but is ready when called upon. Commander Velrin spoke up next. Captain Morrison, the council is also creating a new joint military command. We need to learn from you. Our defense forces were designed for peacetime, not war. We would like human advisors to help us train and rebuild. Jake nodded. We can do that, Commander. But it should work both ways. You have been exploring space for thousands of years longer than us. You have technologies we can barely imagine. Help us learn about the galaxy we just entered. Agreed, Velrin said immediately. Kessa, the young analyst who had suggested calling the humans in the first place, raised her hand shyly. I have a question for Captain Morrison. Why did you come? You did not know us. You did not owe us anything. You risked your lives and lost your people for strangers. Why? Jake was quiet for a moment, thinking about how to explain. On Earth we have a saying. It goes like this. All that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. We heard you calling for help. We knew people were dying. We had the power to do something about it, so we came. It is as simple as that. But it is not simple, Kessa protested. Most species would not do what you did. They would think of their own safety first. Their own interests, maybe, Jake admitted. But humans learned a long time ago that we are stronger together than apart. We learned that protecting others is how we protect ourselves. And we learned that sometimes you have to fight for what is right, even when it costs you. The meeting continued for hours. The council and the human leaders discussed how their alliance would work. They talked about shared technology and joint military exercises. They discussed trade agreements and cultural exchanges. But more than anything, they talked about the future, because both sides knew that the Kralith would return. War Master Drexath had promised as much. And when they came back, they would be ready for human tactics. They would bring more ships and better strategies, but the humans were not worried. Neither was the council, not anymore, because they had learned something important from this battle. When predators from a death world decided to protect you, you were very safe indeed. As the meeting ended and the human officers prepared to return to their ships, Counselor Thina approached Jake one last time. She held out a small crystal in her aged hand. This is a memory crystal, she explained. It contains the entire history of the Galactic Council. Our victories and our failures. Our triumphs and our tragedies. I give it to you so that you may learn from us as we will learn from you. Jake accepted the crystal carefully. Thank you, Counselor. We will honor this gift. Thina looked up at him with eyes that had seen empires rise and fall. No, Captain Morrison. Thank you. Thank you for reminding us that there is still goodness in the galaxy. That there are still those who will fight for what is right, not what is profitable. The Council forgot that. We had become comfortable and weak. But you have shown us that strength and compassion can exist together. As Jake walked back to the shuttle, he looked up at the sky where the Valkyrie and her sister ships orbited. They were damaged and battered, but they were still there, still standing guard. Just like humans always did. 5 years passed after the Battle of Hexus Prime. In that time, the galaxy changed in ways nobody could have predicted. Human ships now patrolled every border of Council space. Joint human Council stations dotted the frontier, combining human military expertise with Council scientific knowledge. And the Kralith, the terror of the galaxy for decades, had retreated to their home systems and stayed there. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in his office aboard the TCS Guardian, the newest and most advanced ship in the human fleet. He had been promoted 3 times since that first desperate battle. His brown hair now had streaks of gray, and the scar on his cheek had been joined by others. But his green eyes were still sharp and determined. On his desk sat the memory crystal that Counselor Thena had given him years ago. He had studied it countless times, learning about the species that made up the Council. The peaceful Vexians with their silver scales and love of art. The brilliant Lumari who could remember everything they ever saw or heard. The industrious Hexians who built magnificent cities. And 10 other species, each unique, each valuable. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. Lieutenant Emma Rodriguez entered. She had been his communications officer on the Valkyrie and had followed him through every promotion. Now she was his chief of staff. Admiral, we just received a priority message from Council Central Command. They picked up a distress call from the Andromeda sector. A species we have never encountered before is under attack by raiders. Jake looked up quickly. How far away are they? 3 days at maximum speed, sir. We have 12 ships in range, including the Guardian. Jake stood and walked to the large window that showed the stars outside. 5 years ago, humanity had answered a call for help from strangers and changed the course of galactic history. Now it was happening again. Somewhere out there, people he had never met were dying. And once again, he had the power to do something about it. How many raiders are we looking at? Jake asked. Emma checked her data pad. Unknown, sir. The distress call was brief and fragmented. But the species sending it sounds desperate. Jake made his decision quickly. It was the same decision he had made 5 years ago. The same decision he would make every time. Prepare the fleet for immediate deployment. Send a message to the species in distress. Tell them help is coming. And Emma, send a message to Admiral Herrera at Earth. Let him know we are responding to a new situation. Yes, sir. As Emma left to carry out his orders, Jake thought about how much humanity had changed in 5 years. When the Valkyrie had first answered the Council's distress call, Earth had been able to send only 15 ships. Now the human fleet numbered over 200 vessels, all built with a combination of human engineering and Council technology. Humanity had gone from a species that barely traveled between stars to a major military power in the galaxy. But more importantly, humanity had not changed in the ways that mattered most. They still answered calls for help. They still protected the innocent. They still believed that strength meant nothing if it was not used for good. 3 days later, the Guardian and her 11 sister ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in the Andromeda sector. What they found was smaller than the Battle of Hexus Prime, but no less desperate. A dozen raider ships were attacking a small colony world. The planet's orbital defenses had been destroyed, and the raiders were beginning their ground assault. Scan the surface, Jake ordered. How many people are we looking at? The sensor officer, a young man named Kyle Chen, worked his console quickly. Approximately 50,000 inhabitants, sir. No reading on their technology level yet, but they appear to be pre-spaceflight. The raiders must have found them recently. Jake felt anger rise in his chest. Raiders attacking a defenseless colony. It was the kind of thing that made his blood boil. All ships, attack formation Beta. Target the raider vessels first. Drive them away from the planet. The human ships accelerated into combat positions. The raiders saw them coming and immediately began powering up their weapons. But then they saw the human ship signatures and something changed. The raider commander sent a communication. Unknown vessels, this prey is ours. Find your own. Leave now or we will destroy you. Jake leaned forward in his command chair. Open a channel. Let me talk to them. Channel open, Admiral. Jake spoke clearly and coldly. Raider vessels, this is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Terran Fleet. You are attacking innocent people under the protection of the Galactic Council. You have exactly 1 minute to power down your weapons and withdraw. If you do not, we will consider you hostile and respond with lethal force. There was silence for a moment. Then the raider commander laughed. It was a harsh, cruel sound. Terran Fleet? I have heard stories about humans. Stories say you are fierce warriors, but you are only 12 ships. We are 12 ships also. Let us see who is stronger. Jake sighed. Emma, note in the log that we offered them a chance to leave peacefully. Noted, sir. Good, all ships weapons free. Show them why you do not threaten people under our protection. The battle was short and brutal. The raiders were experienced fighters who had probably terrorized dozens of worlds, but they had never fought humans before. They had never faced ships built by a species that evolved on a death world. They had never encountered warriors who fought not for profit or glory, but to protect the innocent. The Guardian's railguns spoke first, and 2 raider ships simply ceased to exist. The other human vessels opened fire a second later, their weapons coordinated with perfect precision. Within 5 minutes, 8 of the 12 raider ships were destroyed. The remaining 4 were so badly damaged that they could barely move. "Raider vessels, this is your last chance," Jake said into the communication channel. "Surrender now or die." This time there was no laughter, only silence. Then the 4 remaining ships activated their distress beacons and surrendered. "Send a message to Council Central Command," Jake ordered. "Tell them we need ships to take these prisoners back for trial. And somebody contact the planet. Let them know they are safe." On the surface of the colony world, the inhabitants had watched the brief battle from their cities and farms. They were a species called the Narathi, peaceful farmers who had only recently developed radio technology. They had thought they were alone in the universe. Then raiders had come from the sky and they had thought they were doomed. Now they watched as the human ships established orbit around their planet. They did not know what to think. Were these new aliens friends or just different enemies? Then a transmission came through on every radio frequency, a calm, reassuring voice that spoke their language through translation software. "People of this world, my name is Admiral Jake Morrison. My species is called human and we come from a planet called Earth. We received your distress call and came to help. The raiders who attacked you have been defeated. You are safe now. We mean you no harm. We are here only to protect you." In the capital city of the Narathi homeworld, the planetary leader, an old female named Serath, listened to those words with tears in her eyes. "They came," she whispered. "Strangers from the stars came to save us." Her aide, a younger male named Torin, was reading data from their sensors. "Their ships are very powerful, Leader Serath. They destroyed the raiders in minutes. These humans are formidable warriors. But they use that strength to protect us," Serath said softly, "not to conquer us. Perhaps there is hope for us in this galaxy after all." Aboard the Guardian, Jake was receiving reports from his ships. No human casualties. Minimal damage to the fleet. The raiders captured or destroyed. It was a successful mission by any measure. But Jake knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy was a big place, full of species both good and bad. There would be more distress calls, more desperate people needing help, more battles to fight, and humanity would answer every call. Because that was what humans did. That was what it meant to be a Deathworlder. Not just the strength to fight, but the compassion to protect. Not just the power to destroy, but the wisdom to know when to use that power and when to hold back. Emma approached him with a data pad. "Admiral, we are receiving a message from Counselor Thena. She wants to speak with you." Jake took the data pad and activated it. Thena's aged face appeared on the screen. She looked even older than she had 5 years ago. But her eyes were still bright with intelligence. "Admiral Morrison, I heard about your latest rescue. The Narathi are grateful and so is the Council. You continue to prove that calling humanity for help was the best decision we ever made." "We are just doing our job, Counselor," Jake replied. Thena shook her head slowly. "No, Admiral. You are doing much more than that. You are showing the entire galaxy what it means to be truly civilized. The Council had forgotten that lesson. We thought civilization meant art and science and philosophy, but you have taught us that true civilization also means protecting those who cannot protect themselves. It means standing up against evil, even at great cost. It means caring about others, even strangers you have never met." She paused and her expression grew serious. "The Krelith are growing stronger, Admiral. Our intelligence suggests they are building new ships and training new warriors. One day they will return, and when they do, it will be with a force large enough to overwhelm even your impressive fleet."